Hi, I'm Ems, aka on Dark and Wings. In this video, I will be giving an overview of how I painted up my Bretonnian Lord. Please like, comment and subscribe, it all helps my channel grow and gives me the motivation to keep making these. I have been painting and collecting Warhammer for about 20 years, and I started off with Warhammer Fantasy Battles 6th edition. My first army was High Elves, which might seem a bit funny to some of you since I'm quite well known for grimdark aesthetics, but I guess my mum could justify me playing tabletop war games if I went for sparkly elves rather than some sort of chaos warbands creatures. Anyway, over the years of collecting, I've picked up other bits from different armies, including this Bretonnian Lord I've had sitting in storage for a long time. I do miss the old blister packs and buying them with pocket money back when you could get models for less than £10. Although I do appreciate how much better the sculpts are on models these days compared to the old metal ones. This kit is a mix of plastic and metal, and this feels a little bit sacrilegious or heretical to open up after 20 years. I still think it's a sculpt which holds up, and it's nice to see these square or rectangular bases again. I think that metal models are cool in some ways because they have like heft to them, and there's obviously like nostalgia involved and original casting before things became computerized more. One thing I don't miss about metal models as well is those little fiddly flash parts that come on them, which you have to clean off, and then sometimes you miss a few and have to go back and clean it up again. And you can also see here, this is the cool thing about older models, where you can see the date that they were made or released. So that says Games Workshop 2003. So here is the model all assembled and stuck together. It wasn't too difficult, but some parts I had to really hold together so it wouldn't move because metal is a bit of a pain in the bum to glue together. I was thinking about how to paint this up, and then I remembered that a lot of last names do have coats of arms or heraldry on them. There are loads of crests and coats of arms out there, so you can have a look for your own family's name, or just have a look for some in general and see if there's any colours or patterns which inspire you. So this is my family's coat of arms. I think it looks pretty badass, and it has Irish roots involved with it, and I really like the colour scheme, so I'm going to try and apply that to my Bretonnian Lord. So I primed the model all in black, and I've also put some texture paste on the base as well and primed that too. I primed this with paint out of a pot rather than a rattle can, and that's because black's incorporated in the scheme. So if I ever want to make any correction with the black, I want it to be the same as one out of a pot rather than out of a rattle can, and it might be a different shade that way. I made sure I put a good few coats down of this, as metal models can be a bit of a pain for rubbing off. I also applied a coat of matte varnish to really seal the priming layers down so none of this chipped off. So I was thinking about how I would incorporate the yellow and green into this, and then I considered maybe doing it in some sort of checkered pattern. I've painted up checkered patterns before, and if you don't already know, I collect a Lamenter's army, so I've got a lot of checkers in that. And the easiest way to do it is put down the most appropriate colour first, so usually the lightest colour, but in this case I went with the green, as it covers better over black than the yellow would. And then what I do is I sketch out a rough design using a mechanical pencil. I used Citadel's Warpstone Glow for this, as I felt it was quite an appropriately close colour to the banner. And then I grabbed an Avalon Sunset from Citadel. I think this has a good coverage for a yellow, and then I started to sketch out the checkers. I'm not going to show the entirety of this process on camera, it would take far too long and it would be boring, but here is a gist of how I'm going to be doing it. Here is the progress I made with the checkers. As you can see, it's come out really nicely. I've added some yellow and some of that green as well all around the model, and then I've still tried to keep some of the black showing through too, so it would represent the crest. For the chainmail and the knight's armour, I've used tarnished steel from Dark Molten Metals, and I used a black wash for that. I have a bunch of different brown paints, so I use Blood Reaver Flesh for the skin on the horse. I then use some Scrag Bone, which has a lovely orange tone to it, and I use this on the leather straps around the horse, and also some on the knight as well. I've tried to use some varying browns so they don't all kind of seep into one, and that's the cool thing with brown, there's a bunch of different tones to it. Moving on, I was considering how to put these symbols onto these parts of the horse. It's some sort of lion type of symbol, which kind of worked out already because the shield has an embossed dragon on it, which I could get away with. Unfortunately, this model doesn't actually come with any transfers. There are a bunch of medieval and historical ones you can get online, but I didn't want to get any just for the sake of one model. Maybe if I do more of these. But I had to remember I do have a load of transfers anyway. And then I found these Space Wolf ones, which I think would be appropriate. I was thinking of putting some of these down, and then I could use them as a template and then paint over the top of them so they would look more consistent. Here is the progress I made afterwards. So I ended up putting one transfer down and then using it as a template, and then for the rest of them I just kind of copied that and did it freehand. I used ice yellow in pretty much all of the colours to add highlights, so the brown, the green and the yellow. This just saved a load of time since those colours were already on my palette and it was easier to just add some ice yellow to them. And then I've used some Black Legion contrast paint and I mixed that in with some brown to add some shadows and especially to the leather to make it look a bit more worn. To highlight the black areas, I used Thunderhawk blue, but what I do first is mix a bit of black paint with it and then gradually build up the highlights. To shade the yellow, I used some of that Scrag Brown because again it was already on my palette and it has an orangey tone to it, so I just used that. To shade the green, I just mixed black and green together and thinned it down. I sketched out the freehand first in ice yellow and then I used some Bold Titanium white from below Acryl for the final highlight. I think there's a lesson in this in which you can just use a limited number of colours on your palette. If you already have them on there, you can usually mix them together. There's just the last part I needed to do, which is the basing. I've skipped ahead again here, and here's the base done. And I just grabbed some colours again, which I'd already used before, and I've just mixed them together and dry brushed it over the top of the base where that texture paste was. And then I've grabbed some nice tuff. And of course I put down a layer of matte varnish over this so it wouldn't chip, with it being partly metal. So here's the model finished, and I'm super proud of this. I think it came out so nicely. And I think I did capture my family's coat of arms in this. It's such a cool full circle moment for me, as I've been painting it for the past 20 years, and in the past couple of years it's really taken off for me. I hope this has inspired you with your own Bretonnian models. As always, thank you for watching. If you would like to donate to support my channel, I'll put the link in the description below, and I do have a Patreon now as well. Otherwise, please share if you can. Remember to enjoy your hobbies for yourself, respect that people enjoy them in their own ways, and at the end of the day, they're just war dollies. I'll see you in the next one.